Happy election day, everybody. BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so about to eat some breakfast. I'm gonna go out and vote, but I want to talk a little Lakers first. Of course, we got beat last night by the Detroit Pistons in a pretty embarrassing basketball game for most of our franchise fans, and I'm sure the officials behind the scenes with the Lakers. Front office is embarrassed, team's embarrassed, coaching staff embarrassed. It wasn't great, man. But we move on. Memphis tomorrow. I believe that game is tomorrow. Ja Morant, Zach Edey, bunch of old Lakers, Castleton, Huff, Pippen, all of which we could probably use right now, all of which on very dirt cheap contracts. But that's a whole nother story. We got a big game tomorrow against them. Zach Edey. I don't think that Desmond Bane will be back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have plenty of talent to throw at you, including Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't know if Vince Williams is available. He's another productive player. I'm going to say something here about the Memphis Grizzlies. I would not be totally surprised at all if they come out of the West this year, because they have so much production that they can afford to let a guy like Desmond Bane or Ja Morant rest through injuries, so they can kind of scale back because they have so much depth and still be competitive, and then push everything forward at the end of the season and just run people out the gym. They have so much talent in so many different positions, and they've done such a good job of making sure that they have that. They've scouted well, and they've snatched from people who've scouted well, us. So like they're running their organization in a very, very productive way. And if even though they have had some injury issues, they have the depth to withstand it. And their core has been together for a very long time. So that kind of reminds me of the Denver dynamic when they won it. And we got a long season to play here. But if Memphis ends the season as a top 3 team, or if they make it through the playoffs, I'm not going to be any surprised by that. In fact, I almost expect it, low-key. I almost expect it. So I just want to say that. I know there are a lot of teams that people are looking at in the Western Conference, like Dallas and Minnesota, and OKC, who is very serious too, super serious. But I think Memphis might be the team in the end. But yeah, that's just something that's crossing my mind right now. Whatever the case may be, we see them next, and then we see them again like 7 days from now after that too. So we got Memphis twice early. Not good for our circumstances. So trades are something that everybody wants to see the Lakers make. Of course, a lot of our players are down bad in terms of their value, so no one's going to want them without us throwing in picks. The Lakers have said they would be willing to trade 2 picks for the right trade. But what does the right trade look like? Since we've made so many bad decisions with our personnel, you almost don't trust, if not definitely don't trust, the people who are saying what a good trade is and what a bad trade is. You don't know what a good trade looks like in their eyes versus what actually panned out, and judging by how things are going, that they probably shouldn't be trusted. So that's really where we're at, unfortunately. I didn't feel that way leading into the season, but now that we're here, we very much need to win some trades. You know what I mean? To kind of preserve this Bron and AD timeline. And, AD has to do a lot here, man. He's really asked to do a lot. I saw an excerpt last night where they were asking LeBron James, what does it look like if AD's going to be out? And AD essentially said, I'm not out. You know what I mean? More or less, like, I'm out, I'm in here. But the problem is he should be out. He probably should miss the next 2 or 3 games to recover from what it is he just went through, if we're going to be smart. And or rather, if we're going to be responsible with him. But, when I say the word smart, I have to put that in quotations, because at the end of the day, it may not be a smart move for us to rest AD, given the fact that we don't have the depth to at the center position even compete. So that is the problem. We really do need a center, man. And so, excuse me. Hopefully Christian Koloko is coming back, but even if he is, I don't know that he's a high level center. Like, probably gonna lose a lot of games if you're relying upon him without AD. Him and Jackson Hayes without AD, that's not good. So for those who want to make the trade for Walker Kessler and are willing to throw in a pick or 2 to do it, I don't want to throw in picks to do something like that. But I definitely see where everybody's coming from when they say we probably need to just bite the bullet. Or we could have potentially hurt AD, find him as an injured player, and what does that cost the roster? You know what I mean? If we don't get that center that can kind of give him a spell out there, you could potentially damage your most valuable piece and your most important piece. So how much does that cost you? You know what I mean? How much is that worse than mortgaging a few picks for a few players? I don't know. When you consider, you know, we're not working into the assumption that AD is going to go down with some type of injury and come back not the same anymore. But if we keep running him out there, that's exactly the type of thing that you allow to be possible. Without a center, without anybody to give him a spell, ask him to play through injury, you potentially take years off of his career. You open the door for catastrophic things to be possible, and that is our responsibility to make sure we don't do as well. So under the spirit of that, is it worth a pick or two? It might be. It might be. And that's something I have to be honest about, especially when I'm sitting here waiting for centers to come back that I don't expect to really do too much. Christian Wood, historically a horrible defender, even though I thought he's played some pretty good defense next to AD. Without him, we saw what that looked like in Dallas. They couldn't even play him. And now he's coming back from a knee injury, and we're going to expect him to do what defensively? It's going to be horrible. We know that. Jackson Hayes, defensively, it's not his bag. He's getting better, but that's not his bag. I called him a scrub last night in my video. Kind of sorry I did that. I just found myself very frustrated, and I do not think he's a very talented player, but to call a guy a scrub is disrespectful. So I do apologize for saying that. But, yeah, I don't think he's that much better than what would be described as a scrub, to be honest with you. It's not always what you say. It's how you say it, your delivery. But at the end of the day, man, he's a very limited center, and I don't think that I can expect that he's going to give me more than he already has. So, you know, we have some real issues, man. Our center position is hurting, and it's not my favorite position to mortgage anything for, but we do need to address it. We do need to address it if we're going to ask these guys to play all season long, Anthony Davis specifically, to play all season long. Did we learn anything as it pertains to the value of the players that we have? Rui Hachimura is having a fantastic start to the season, but he's kind of weaning off and showing us some limitations that are really frustrating. Do we move him for the piece we need? I had already made that, I'd already said that was something I'd be thinking about doing or be willing to do. But now that I've seen him start the season the way he has, I feel like he might be a most valuable piece, and he might be a piece that we may be likely to see not play great going forward. Do I cash out on Rui? Rui does have a nice contract. I think he's a hell of an efficient scorer, but some of his limitations are flat out irritating sometimes, to be honest with you. And I just wonder if he's not the best bet for us to improve our situation without giving up picks, and not and somebody that we can afford to live without. I'm not certain. I'm not sitting here saying I've made the decision that I'm certain. I haven't thought this all the way through. But his defensive limitations, were on high display last night. And like I said, he really did start the season very well. In the right situation, he could average 20 points. Truly can. This ain't that situation. And we're not featuring him with the intention of making sure he becomes that. So, he's one of those guys where I started the season, picked him up on a lot of fantasy teams, and as of late, I've dropped him on a lot of fantasy teams because he's weaned off over the last couple of days. I'll be willing to pick him back up, but his value doesn't make it so that he's a must-keep. Like I'm worried somebody else is going to take him off the waiver wire. That's not. And so with that being said, when we're so limited in assets that are valuable, is he not the best asset we can move to get what we need? I think the answer is probably yeah. And that's unfortunate because, in a nutshell, if that weren't the dynamic, I would not be ready to move a player that's pretty much playing pretty well to start the season. But, it takes something good to get something good. And I got to find something good on my roster that I can live without. And I don't have a lot of those. I'm not moving Dalton Connect as a rookie, dirt cheap, when I know what he can do. That Phoenix game showed me everything I need to know. That's not somebody you move. Gabe Vincent's not going to give me anything in this market unless I attach something very good to him to get him gone, for which I would most definitely do. At this point, I would be willing to get him the hell out of here just to create the cap space in the roster spot. In fact, I think that's probably imperative for our bench to move on from that particular piece. I don't believe that what we're seeing from him is even remotely, decent. It's not even remotely what we would respect from a guy like Dave Vincent. He's been awful, and in this system, he's just not. He's not it at all what we need. So, trying to get rid of him and replacing him with somebody that's good is not something that looks possible right now. Playing up his value doesn't look like that's going to be possible either. He's more likely to run out there, jog, and eventually get hurt before actually going out there and playing well, in my opinion. I just don't see it coming. Man, that was the worst decision of them all. I think it was. Giving him a mid-level exception last summer, the summer before last, whatever that was. It's the worst decision of them all. Even worse than picking up Jalen Hood-Schifino. Because at least Jalen Hood-Schifino's on a dirt cheap contract. And you know with a guy like that, he could either make it or not. He could bust early or be great. Someday, if you wait on him, maybe Jalen could turn into something. You know, it doesn't cost as much to get rid of him, even though that 17th overall pick is very valuable. I think giving $15 million to somebody who's jogging around doing nothing and spent the whole year hurt is a far worse pain on our roster. Far worse. So, yeah, these are things that, you know, for me, I've been thinking about players that I would love to have on this team. And what would be required to get them. I probably don't have the picks or the value to get a player like, for example, Tari Eason, who needs a bigger role in this league, who could probably help us on some areas that we need help in. The Houston Rockets, small forward, who's got 2 years left on a rookie contract, I believe it is, or something like that. But he's like on the 9th man or the 8th man on the team, whereas if you give him the minutes, he would be probably a starting shooting guard or small forward, rather, on your team. Like Tari Eason immediately is somebody else if he comes to the Lakers. His production goes way up than what he's in right now. Same thing with Jabari Smith. The production it skyrockets. Jabari Smith is a guy I dropped in a lot of my fantasy teams, and it's not because I've lost faith in him. It's just because his role is so diminished that he can't get the minutes necessary to make him valuable. Reed Shepherd, one of the best rookies in this draft, is not getting any minutes in Houston. Like, Houston is the situation that I look at and say, for God's sakes, Houston, move on from some of those guys. They're so much better than the opportunity you're giving them. You know what I mean? These guys are really much better than that. And you got contracts like Dylan Brooks and, you know, Fred VanVleet that's just taken away from the opportunity for players who are literally better than them to play basketball consistently so that they can display themselves properly. Houston is an abomination in that regard. They really are. They're an absolute NBA abomination. So that's what I want to say. I think that if we could try to pry some of those guys away from Houston, it would be worth Rui and picks, to be honest with you, because those guys are going to be more valuable than that tomorrow. But Houston is not likely going to be willing to do that. And if I had those players in my war chest, it would cost you probably more than what the Lakers can give up to get them. So, like, these are the things, you know, Cam Johnson looks more attractive to me on the trade market, to be honest with you. I've been giving some thought. I heard about the incentives that he has on his contract this morning via Laker Nation, who were discussing him a little bit. So even though he has like a $20 million contract, it's like $7 million worth of incentives that are expected not to be likely, but you still have to trade for in regards to the you know, matching salaries. And I think that, and when I think about his piece, usually my issue with him is that he's often hurt. You bring him in, you expect for him to be a reliable piece, and he's made of glass. I think that's a problem the Lakers don't need to have. But when I also think about our backcourt, particularly our shooting guard, point guard position, if what it is required in terms of moving players is the contracts of Gabe Vincent and D'Angelo Russell, D'Lo, who used to play for the Brooklyn Nets. Gabe, I don't know why the hell they would take Gabe, to be honest with you. I wouldn't if I'm Brooklyn. But just to say, if it were that to make the move, I would be willing to do that today. D'Lo's expiring. He's not playing that great. I would miss his assists. But the problem that we have on our backcourt is that we don't have enough defensive ability. Our shooting isn't great. And we need more length and athleticism. I think he checks like 3 out of 4 of those boxes. Cam Johnson does. He checks. You could put him at the shooting guard position next to Austin Reeves, and suddenly you don't have a horrible backcourt defensively, because Cam Johnson is a very good defender. And then you swap him out with Max Christie at times. Now you have opportunities to see perimeter defense, moving Cam to the 3. Now the issue with Rui not being able to be fast enough to keep up with threes is not in place because you got Cam Johnson there, Max Christie there. Austin Reeves looks like a better defender next to those two. That looks better to me today than it did in the offseason. Based on how Cam's playing, for which he's healthy and he looks good out there in Brooklyn, they're showcasing him and it's working. And for me, he's worth the expiring contract of D'Lo and, you know, the matching salary of Gabe Vincent. Like I said, they would be crazy to just take that and walk away. They would be crazy. So we probably have to throw in a first-round pick, for which I don't. At that point, I'm probably walking away from the table from the Lakers. So that's my problem. With our pick situation, I genuinely don't want to throw any first-round picks to fix this team. Problem is, as I already said at the beginning of the video, if I'm not willing to make a trade, which may cost a first or two, I may end up hurting Anthony Davis. That's more expensive, as I'm assessing it, than what it would cost to move on from 2 picks. If it cost me Anthony Davis having a season-ending injury and possibly having trouble for the rest of his career because of that injury, which is obviously the worst-case scenario, that's like Armageddon scenario. But like I said, you leave the room for that Armageddon scenario when you ask Anthony Davis to bang up against the type of centers that we've asked him to bang up against yesterday and tomorrow. And I look at teams like Portland, who have Donovan Clingan and freaking DeAndre Ayton, and I'm looking at the center position we have. We have to play these teams, man. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. I'm genuinely worried about that Portland matchup. Portland's not a good team, but we got one legitimate center out there. And Anthony Davis is going to have to deal with both of them. It's just not. You're asking for problems, man. Last night, he got pretty much hurt going up against Duren and Isaiah Stewart. And there are bigger front courts in this league than that. You know, Jaren Jackson and you know, Jay Huff and, of course, Zach Edey. Like, these teams are getting bigger, man. Teams are getting bigger. And so, you know, I understand those who are saying, look, get a center, man. Do what you have to do to get a center. Because as we go forward in this season, if we don't, we're going to wear Anthony down. And that is ultimately something that could be much more catastrophic for the future of our franchise than even moving on from 2 first-round picks. And so that's just something I have to come to terms with. And I don't want to move those picks at all. But, you know, this is a very serious situation the Lakers have got going on. And a lot of the talent that we have on our team really has lost value. Gabe Vincent's value has gone down to start the season. Max Christie's value has gone down to start the season. You know what I mean? So it's like you're less likely to get the trades that you need at this point. So, you know, these are things that I've been thinking about, man. I don't know what Rob Pelinka is going to do. I don't know that we haven't, as we've already mentioned several times, found ourselves in a situation where we can't make this thing better. Where the decisions that we made and mistakes that we made are just irreversible, and thus we really do have to live with what is in front of us right now. And if that's the case, you get really frustrated thinking about the greed of asking Anthony Davis and LeBron James to be a part of this. The only responsible thing, and I've said this a million times, is to relinquish those two so that you can then reset your situation and build something they actually can sustain, and not ask them to run their bodies into the ground in a situation that can't get them a championship, that can't showcase them properly. You know, it's like it's irresponsible to ask those guys to do that. It's greedy of us to ask them to do that. And you know damn well we're not able to build something that can win. It's not right. You know, it's morally wrong, so to speak. So that's what it really comes down to, man. I'm a little frustrated at the notion that we have lost value in some of these pieces that weren't very valuable to begin with. Jalen Hood-Schifino has lost value to start the season. You know, believe it or not, now that we have him as a player we've told everybody we're opting out on, he's worth even less. People look at him as like, well, he probably don't even have the upside. The team that has him doesn't even believe in him at this point. Why should we take a chance on him? Why should we pay this particular price for him? His value's gone down. We lost the Colin Castleton piece. Maybe he could have been a throw-in to a situation. So that value's out. It's like we're losing value a lot right now by the second, and we have more needs just the same in that same showcasing of situations. When players lose value, it means they're producing less. Your lack of production means that you need to replace players who aren't producing for players that can, and you have less to work with to do so. So it gets a little tricky in trying to see yourself become better. So that's the problem with the Lakers, man. We're happy to be a team with 4 wins, but unfortunately we've lost 3 games, and the games that we've lost, up until last night, we had lost to some pretty good teams. You losing to Detroit, I'm sorry, man. You're in trouble. Now, I know that Detroit matches up pretty well with us. They have athleticism and high athletic players that we don't have. So, maybe we lose a lot of games to Detroit if we played them a lot. But in a nutshell, Detroit's not a good team. Or they've been proven to be not a good team up to this point. Maybe they go on a streak from here, right? But, that's the reality of it. So we can talk about what we need to do to get better. Obviously, we need to rebound the ball. We need to find a way to be better in transition. We have got to find a way to shake up this roster so that we can find some backcourt defensive help. Keep going forward with D'Lo and Austin. The way that things are going, every time we run into anybody that even remotely has any athleticism, they're going to get attacked. And that's also something that just needs to be fixed, man. Everybody that I've listened to is pretty much saying the same thing. You just can't win with that being your backcourt. I think they can play on the same team in a lot of combinations of rosters, D'Lo and Austin. But asking them to be our starting point guard and shooting guard is asking for more trouble going forward. We've learned this lesson already, and it may not have been possible to move on from D'Lo. We may not be willing to move on from Austin, but we do have to understand that this dynamic is a problem. It's a problem, and we gotta accept that. We gotta accept that. So that's really what it is, man. I like those players for the most part. D'Lo has really started the season off slow, but I know what D'Lo looks like when he's playing well. We've seen that trade deadline last year. He looked really good. If we could get that D'Lo again, everybody would love him again. I get that, but at this point in time, it's just with him playing poorly, scoring the ball, shooting poorly consistently every night. We're not getting from him what we really need. We need him to be a volume scorer, not just a volume shooter, but somebody who's actually getting buckets. And his athleticism deficiencies on both sides of the floor really are glaring in this rotation. It's glaring. Something that bothered me last night, and look, I've been complaining about this player. I haven't exactly loved seeing this player very much this year. But Max Christie only getting 4 minutes was really, really different, especially when you're going up against the type of athletic players that you were going up against last night. I thought JJ he pulled a Darvin Ham when it came to that. Darvin used to do that stuff. When we go up against these athletic, speedy dudes, and he would let Austin and D'Lo guard them all game long, and they get smoked, and Max Christie wouldn't play no minutes. That's what he did last night. That's exactly what JJ did last night. And look, like I said, I've been complaining about Max a little bit, but I thought he was coming off his best game against the Raptors. I thought he played very well off the bench. In about 14 minutes, he gave us, 7 points, 5 rebounds, something like that. Played really good defense. You don't demote a guy after he's playing well. After he comes off his best game for his standards, and you move him from a game where his piece is needed. When we talk about the Jackson Hayes situation being a distraction, it looked like the Jackson Hayes situation was more of a distraction for our coaching staff, because they look ill-prepared going into this Detroit game. And some of the stuff that you would think they would be snap sharp on, they were oblivious, it seemed, last night. It looked like a Darvin-led team last night. And another thing that I thought was a little strange, even though, again, complain about this player a little bit, is Cam Reddish. I thought Cam Reddish played one of his better games yesterday. And as I told you guys in the offseason a couple times, I think Cam Reddish is going to make his money on the defensive end. 2 steals, 5 boards, no points. I don't expect him to score too much. But, when you talk about trying to go up against guys like what we were dealing with last night in Detroit, he looked pretty damn good out there against them. And we didn't put him back in the game in the second half. Where's our head? That's what I'm saying to the coaching staff. Where's our head? I I don't particularly want Cam Reddish on this squad anymore, but against matchups where I'm going up against athletic defensive, offensive guys at the backcourt, and I'm getting smoked, and D'Lo's not, efficient at all on the offensive end, getting smoked on the defensive end, that's when I'm going to turn to Cam Reddish and say, yeah, get back in there, man, see if you can do something. You firing up the team, you know what I mean? You getting into it with guys. Maybe I'm a little worried you might get into a fight tonight, but at least that energy is present. You were very present in this basketball game. And that we didn't turn back to him. It's almost like Darvin Ham type stuff, married to the minutes before the game even starts, not adjusting to what it is that's happening as the game continues to play forward. Nah, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. You abandon your game plan when the game shows you that your game plan is no good. If a guy's doing something that really helps the team and the guy that you plan to lean on is hurting the team, you get away from that plan, man. You sit that guy that's struggling down and you put in the guy that's playing well tonight. And then that type of in-game adjustment, that has to be done, man, in this league. That has to be done. People are married to plans, preconceived notions about what's going to work for them, and that crap does not work on the basketball floor in this league at all. It doesn't work. If you don't make in-game adjustments, you're going to lose to a team on a given night. So that type of stuff is just being married to the loss type of energy. I'm not married to a loss. If something's working, I'm going to it. Cam Reddish was working last night. And I thought Max Christie and Cam Reddish would have helped us a lot defensively in them situations where they were driving. Jaden Ivey just speed passing our dudes. Nah. That's when Cam Reddish and Max Christie need to be on the floor, and we live with whatever offensive deficiencies that come with that, so we can stop the bleeding on them kicking our butt. So that was a poorly coached game last night, in my opinion. And then not going to Dalton Connect at all, not featuring Rui more when he's scoring more. I really, really was disappointed in the coaching staff last night. So yeah, man, that's what needs to be said, man. I don't doubt the Lakers have certain deficiencies. All the more reason why you need to abandon game plans when something looks like you could fix it with something that you weren't planning. This is where it's even more necessary to abandon a game plan. If this guy's going to get 15 minutes tonight, 15 minutes tomorrow, 15 minutes the next game, that crap is trash. You go in with that mindset, you immediately move on from if the guy's 5 for 5 to start the game. You play him 25 minutes. You play him 30 minutes. And if he ain't missing a shot, you play him all game if necessary. It's the type of adjustments that needs to be made for this roster to have any success, man. So we have very inconsistent players. You can't be married to any type of consistency when they're managing those players. So yeah, man, that's what it is. Last night was an extremely disappointing game on many fronts. A wasted AD effort game, 37 minutes, 37 points, hurt ankle, just a wasted AD game. He played like an MVP, and we were so inept in other areas that it didn't even matter. So that's pretty much what I got to say about that, man. I'm definitely looking forward to us learning from that mistake. Dalton Connect must be featured more on this roster, man. I think everybody agrees. A lot of people are saying it for different reasons, but I think we're all on the same page when it comes to Dalton not being used enough in this situation. We need him more. We need to utilize his shooting ability. We need to utilize his defensive length and his rebounding ability. And that we are not turning to him makes us a significantly worse basketball team. Period. So that's also something that really needs to be said, man. I want to see our coach look for ways to stop the bleeding in the moment, real time. I pride JG on being a very intelligent person. That's something that he's going to have to improve on as a coach. In-game adjustment, real time recognition and abandoning of preconceived plans so that you can adjust to what's happening right there in real time. So yeah, man, that's my thought, man. Please call up Traore, or however you pronounce his name, and Quincy Olivari. Please play those guys. Please play them. And get rid of Gabe Vincent's minutes, man. I'd rather you give those minutes to other players. Divvy them out between all the other bench guys. That's what I think. More Cam Reddish, more Bronny James. Believe it or not, I know he's not ready, but more Bronny James. No exaggeration. He's better than we're giving him opportunities to be. When we have a bench that's not doing anything, you got to see if that kid can give you anything. You have to. Or send him to the G League. But don't have him sitting on the bench just to be sitting there. I need him somewhere playing. I really do. And that's what I want to say to Bron James. I know you love having your kid next to you on these road trips. It's a beautiful thing. His butt should have been in the G League in this road trip. He should have been. Getting real reps. Preparing to be a helpful piece for us weeks from now. So that, people are doing things for the wrong reasons, and I don't appreciate it. I really don't. When you need damn players that you have in the G League and you're not using people that you do, you're not using that should be in the G League. Quincy and Bronny need to be swapping spots right now. They need to be. So yeah, man, I was just looking at this organization, and I'm saying, man, I don't know how you're gonna fix your problem. Maybe you've accepted that you can't fix your problem, as it pertains to making trades and what it's going to cost to get things done. But I'm telling you, our players can't afford for you to give up on trying to fix these problems. Particularly Anthony Davis and our backcourt. They're not going to make it through the season. They're going to continue to lose value. And it's going to be even harder to make trades if you keep letting them look bad out here. So that's really what it is, man. And keep on, I don't know what works. This is still a new situation. We don't know if Gabe Vincent well to say what will fire him up or, I don't know. But we have got to get Gabe Vincent to look better than he's looked. We have to. Because if we're going to be stuck with a guy that's doing nothing, making that much of our cap, it's going to eat away at any chance of us being any good in the long run. He has to play better. With whatever minutes given. I don't know if you take minutes from him. I don't know if you give him a different role. Hell, I don't know if you put him in the starting lineup. But you got to figure something out to get him to play better. Because if this continues, you are really stuck with him, man. And that is something that obviously we don't want to be. So that's what it is, man. You got to play these guys up. Their value must go up. I know we're struggling right now. It's easy to complain when you're struggling. But these problems are here whether we're winning or not. I keep telling people, the record does not determine the severity of these issues. It's how much you're leaning on these starters that makes it a real problem. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.